Well, this workshop will be primarily live demos, and here's a list of steps we'll be taking over the next 28 minutes. But rather than read this to you, let's visualize it. First, I'll be wiring up 4 sensors on my Groove Rio here on my desk. Let's take a look. First, we have a ICTD temperature device, a simple two-wire temperature device. I've got a door sensor here. It's just a dry contact, and there's the other end of that. I've got a stack light, which is a digital output, and I've got some 24 volts here to power that light. And then right over here behind me on my seat, I've got a 2-foot water column full of water with a 4 to 20 milliamp level transmitter called a Level Rat, and I'll be wiring that up to the Rio as well. So pretty exciting. Lots of stuff to do. Now, once I have all of that wired up to my Rio here on my desk, I'll then configure all of these sensors and devices with the built-in web interface that's right in the Rio. So, and while there, I'll actually click to configure a secure path to my MQTT broker running up on Amazon Web Services. Now, remember, any broker just about any broker will work, including the MQTT distributor module running on any Ignition gateway, either on-prem or in the cloud. But for my demo, I'm using Cirrus Link's Chariot broker running up on AWS. Now, next, I'll start the MQTT Sparkplug B service on my Rio and begin publishing that sensor data and all the states whenever they change, because MQTT publishes on change. Then I'll flip over to my local PC here, and I've got a fresh install of Ignition 8. I'll install the MQTT engine module and configure it to securely connect up to the same broker. Now, once complete, I'll be then subscribing to the data that my Rio is publishing. Now, what's more is once the connection's established, I can actually publish messages back up to from my local gateway back up to the broker, where my Rio can subscribe to those changes, providing bidirectional communications without opening any firewall ports or involving IT. And in this case, I'll be able to control my stack light right from my Ignition instance. Now, once all that's settled, I'll demonstrate other systems that are connected to the same broker and moving data wherever it needs to be. First, I'll actually log into my publicly accessible Ignition gateway at the top of my screen here, and that's at demo.groove.com, and I'll demonstrate the same Rio data showing up on that gateway. Then I'll add a couple of those tags to an existing perspective screen running on this public gateway and provide you a URL so you can see that as well. Now, as further demonstrated on this screen, other software applications like the Canary Labs Historian can also subscribe to the Rio sensor and state tags just the same as all the other applications in the system. So now what's also cool is I have a Groove Epic behind me here. Let's take a look at that. Go to my demo cam, and there you can see I've got a couple PLCs, Allen Bradley and Siemens, on a private network to an Epic, and on that device we're running Ignition Edge software and publishing those tags over the corporate network up to the same broker. Hopefully we'll get a chance to see that work as well. Okay, let's come back into here. Now, one of the things that you may be wondering is, well, how do you get all this fantastic I/O data and legacy PLC data into your traditional OPC UA clients? Well, Ignition's got you covered there too. All tags that Ignition is pulling in through MQTT Engine are automatically available to any configured OPC UA client. It's really the best of both worlds. So let's get to our demo. I'm going to pull my Chrome browser up and switch my screen, and let's pull this. I'm going to scoot over here and get a little comfortable. All right, we're in good shape here. Okay, what you see here, of course, is my live feed as well. I've got my demo here in front of me, and over here I've got my browser that I'll be using to configure my Rio. But before we get there, let's take a closer look at the Rio itself. You can see it's powered up. I've got blinking LEDs and so on, but you may be curious, well, how is this thing powered up? Well, it's powered up with what's called Power over Ethernet. Yes, indeed, I've got an Ethernet cable plugged into a PoE switch right back here, and just by virtue of plugging into the Rio, I've now powered the device and it's booted up, got on the network, obtained an IP address, and also registered its host name. So its host name in this case, the default host name, is listed right here on the label on the side of the Rio. So you can see there's opto-049 Charlie 66. Okay, terrific. I'll need to know that in a moment when I log in with my browser, which now's a good time to do that. So let's switch over to the screen so you can see how I do this. I'm simply going to come up here to my browser and I'm going to type in opto and dash. Okay, good. I've done this before. Apparently I've had some practice. So I'll click on there, and what I'm going to come up with now is the commissioning screen. It's important to note that this is a device that we have designed to work on the plant floor, and as such it's very secure. It has no default username and password. You have to connect to it with SSL, and you have to create a user account on its first use. So I'm going to come in here and I'm going to go to username. I'm going to type ICC. That's what we're going to make my admin account. For, well, I don't want to give away my password. I'll create an account, and then it's going to ask me to log back in with that same account. So I'll go ahead and do that, and hopefully I didn't fat finger anything, because there is no way to recover your password except by resetting to defaults. So make sure you're keeping track of that. Now there's a lot on this screen. There's a lot to cover. This is a very capable device, but we're going to focus on just getting I/O data into Ignition. So we're going to start off at the very beginning. We're going to go in here into I/O reference, because I told you I have all this cool I/O here, but I've got to wire it up. How do I do that? Well, the good news is the Groove Rio has built-in wiring diagrams. So I'm going to go over here to ICTD input, and just like that, on channel 0, I'm going to put the ICTD. That's going to be black on pin 1 and white on pin 2. So I'm going to grab my handy dandy termination tool here, and let's go ahead and get that wired up. Let me switch this so you can actually see what I'm doing. And so I'm going to go here into pin 1, push my tool in, grab my ICTD, and just as the instructions indicate, I'm going to push the black wire into pin 1 and the white wire into pin 2. Done. That was quick. Okay, let's go back. And let me switch my screen back so you can see what I'm doing here. Next one I want to do is my door sensor here, just a simple dry contact. Now what's cool is I have this option of switch input powered, meaning I'll actually provide the excitation voltage to power this sensor right from the device. Now we're at channel 1, so let's switch. Channel 1, we want to go to pin number 4. So we'll put one leg into pin 4, and it looks like the other leg has got to go into pin 5. So we'll do that really quick. Here we go. And boom. Give it a nice little tug. Make sure we're all in there good. And we are. Terrific. 2 down, 2 to go. Let's go back. Now my next device is my stack light here. And I have 24 volts for that coming into this panel. So I'm going to choose the discrete syncing output here. And we're going to go into channel 2. So let me give you a quick look at that, and you can get a sense of what the wiring diagram. And as you can see, the positive will go into number 7 and the return on number 8. So let's do that. Here's my positive lead, and it's supposed to go to number 7. So I'll come in here to number 7. Push that thing in, click it in, and release. Good. Now my return I have wired up down here, so I'm going to take that one, and that one's going to go into number 8. So let's go ahead and push that in, put my return into, and that's my common. And as you can see from the wiring diagram, that common is actually commoned across many of the terminals there, and that'll become important in just a moment. Okay, terrific. My stack light is now wired up. Let's switch back. And next one we're going to do is my 4 to 20 milliamp transmitter. So I'm going to go to current input. I'm going to go into channel 3 here. Now this is not a self-powered unit. We are powering it with the same 24 volt supply. Now also what's important is we have a return on, it looks like number 11 there. So I'll move my mouse and you can see that. And the positive is on number 12. Well, because my returns are all commoned, and I'll bust back, I can use the same common I have for my stack light and simply wire the positive one into number 2. So let's take a look, and that's going to go into channel 12. Okay, push that in, push that symbol, and give it a tug. Okay, my wiring is done. Pretty sweet. Okay, let's switch back. Now what we're going to do is actually configure the I/O, right? So I'm going to go back. Now, one of the things that I wired up here was, of course, a temperature sensor. So one of the things I'll probably want to do is determine whether I want to read that in degrees C or degrees F. So I choose degrees F, a little easier for me to do. So I come in here, select Fahrenheit, and click Save. Okay, now all temperature conversions are done on the Rio, and they'll be in degrees F. Okay, next step, let's start configuring channels. We're going to go in here into channel 0, click on configure, and we're going to give this guy a name. So in this case, this is my temperature, so I'm going to call it Demo Studio and Temp. Okay, pretty cool. Now this is where the magic happens. Remember I told you that the Rio is software configurable I/O? This is where you select the signal that you need. They're all in there, lots of choices, but we're going to get right to the task at hand. I'll choose ICD temperature probe. It's already in degrees F and scaled. This is pretty straightforward. I'm just going to now determine what data I want to send to the broker from this temperature probe. Well, naturally, I probably want to send its value, right? So we'll send the value on change. But there's some other interesting things here as well. I can actually record or store the min and max of that temperature probe right here as well. And then I can choose this writable button so I can reset that min and max at some interval, maybe once per day or whatever. I'll click Save. And I've got my information coming in just like that. So we've already tested it. It appears to be working great. Okay, let's go on to our next channel. And that'll be channel 1 in the second position. And there I have a door sensor. So I'll click Configure. And let's type in door sensor. All right, and it's just a dry contact. So what I have to do is select for the dry contact, but in this case, I want to do the power digital input. So we're going to use the PoE power to actually provide the excitation voltage, and we'll go ahead and determine I want to send the state. So whenever that door sensor opens or closes, I'll send that state. But look at this, I've got this feature here. Let's click on that. It turns out that channels 0 and 1 have a lot of advanced features for digital inputs. Let's make it a counter. Send the counter to MQTT broker as well and make it writable so I can clear that. So now I not only know when the door is open or closed, I know how many times it occurred. All right, so now I can also test that. So here's my wiring, and I'm going to bring this guy over, and yep, I can see that it's going on there. Switch it just so you see there. And it's also counting how many times I've done that. So pretty slick. I've tested that out. 2 down, 2 to go. Here we go. All right, we're going to move right along here. Let's go to channel 2, and once again go to configure. Now this is where my stack light is. Remember I wired my stack light up to this one, so I'm going to just go red stack light. There we go. Once again, I'm going to choose the sensor type or the signal type, and in this case it's a 5 to 30 volt output. I want to say that I want to know its state, obviously, and I also want to make it writable. So there you go. My red stack light is a digital output, and I'm going to send it state, but I'm also going to accept writes to that, and in this case it will actually write to the output. All right, click Save, and we're in good shape. Now the other cool thing about Rio is I can actually test my wiring. So in this case, I've got my red stack light wired up, and right from my screen here, I can click on toggle, and you can see I can toggle my light on or off, and that just confirms that I have wired it properly, which is a good thing. Okay, so last one, here we go. It's the 4 to 20 milliamp level rat transmitter. So we're going to go in here, we're going to call it level rat and tank level. How was that? Now, one of the things that's important as I'm typing these tag names in, because this is MQTT, these become the single source of truth. I'm literally creating the tags that will be throughout the entire system. So at this moment where I name it, this is the single source of truth and the tag name for everything we're doing. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and select my 4 to 20, actually it's a 0 to 20 input in this case, and I do want to scale this. Now my transmitter was sent to me by a friend, Jason Hamlin, who provided me this level rat, and he had it calibrated at 0 to 5 feet. So I'm going to go ahead and put that in there. I'm going to go 0 to 5 feet. Now, the other thing that's important is that that's for 4 to 20. And because this input 0 to 20, I'm actually going to put my lower scale at 1.25. That way the math works out. Okay, again, I'm going to go to value. And now in the case of the level rat, the value tends to flutter a little bit. And I don't want to send a lot of messages on change because just a little bit of flutter in that level rat. So I'm going to say, I'm going to put a deadband of a tenth of the scale or a tenth of the span. I also want to get the min-max and make the min-max writable because again, this is an input, so we're just going to be writing to the values that we can. We're going to save it, and there we go. I'm going to go ahead and clear my min and max. Let's test this guy out. All right, we're going to pull them up. Hey, look at that. Must have it wired up properly. So it's just shy of 2 feet of water there, and it looks like the level rat is doing exactly what it is intended to do. Okay, we are in good shape. All of our I/O is configured. We get a glance of it there. Next is, let's get it to MQTT. Let's get it up to the broker. Now, I told you I wanted to do this securely, and indeed I will. We're going to use TLS encryption, and for that I'm going to need a security certificate. Not a server one, a client one. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to add update, and I got this certificate from the person who put the broker together up on AWS. So I'm going to go ahead and load that into the Rio, and what's going to happen is when it attempts to make a connection to the broker, it'll exchange keys and make sure it's the correct broker, the correct server, and once that's up, we'll create the TLS connection, and then we'll start passing our MQTT data packets. Okay, that was easy. Let's come back to here, and finally, let's configure MQTT. All right, here we are. Let's go into configuration. I'm going to blow through this pretty quickly, but basically I need to put in a group ID. I need to put in an edge node ID, so I'm going to call that ICC 2020. And then I put in a device ID. In this case, I'm going to come up here and I'm going to say it's Ignition IO. And this is also how it will show up in the tag tree in the gateway. And I'll go ahead and click OK. Now I just say, where's the broker? Let's point to it. So I go add MQTT broker, and I'm going to put in the broker URL. And in that case, we're going to be SSL because we are doing this securely. And we go chariot.groove.com, and then the secure port, which is 8883. Now I need to put in a client ID, and I can just put in a random number here. And there we go. Now, the other thing that's important is when I log on to the broker, I need a username and password. So the good news is I created one special for this event with its own set of what are called ACLs, or access control lists. I'll go ahead and add my certificate there, click OK, and click Save. Now what's happening next is it's actually saved my configuration, and it's going to start the service. So at this moment, the Rio is cataloging all of the I/O tags and all of the ancillary data, like the mins and max and so on, issuing the birth certificate and sending it up to the broker. Now let's go look at it. Let's go take a look. So the way we do that, we're going to log on to my local Ignition 8 that I just installed. So I'm going to come over here and type in localhost. Now I did install this software already, and as you know, when you install Ignition 8, you must create a username and password, which is a great thing. So I'm going to go ahead and log in with that username and password, and there you go. I'm on my gateway. I've got 51 minutes left on my trial. We should be good. All right, so I'm going to come down here to config. The first thing I need to do is put in a module, and that's going to be the MQTT engine module. So I'll go ahead and install that. I've already downloaded it from Inductive's website. So let's click on Engine and click on Install. Now I've already done this once before, so it's not asking me to accept the cert, so we're in good shape there. I'm going to come down to settings, and this is where it all happens. I'm going to enable the MQTT engine, and I'm going to uncheck the blocking because I do want to be able to perform writes. And then I'll come down and save those changes. Now I'm going to go and configure the server. And just like the Rio, I need to put in a certificate, the same certificate that we had before. So I'll create new certificate, choose a file, grab it, apply it, give it a name, and boom, all done. Okay, let's set up the server. Now guess what? This server is set up exactly, I'm going to delete the default server here and create a new one. This is done very similarly to what we just did it in Rio. So I'm going to go O for Opto Chariot MQTT server. Thankfully, I've typed this in before, so I don't have to type it in again. Once again, I'm going to go ahead and put in the username and password for my account up on the broker, choose my certificate, and create new server settings. Okay, well, let's see if I can get the password right. Okay. Thanks for making sure I have that plugged in there, right? Inductive, and we are connected. Okay, that's a good thing. Next is obviously going to get the designer, so I need to open up my designer launcher, and here's my demo studio machine. I'll go ahead and launch that, and let's see, it's pulling it up over here on my other screen, which is no problem. Just going to type in my username and password for this Ignition Gateway on my local machine. All right, and as I said, it's a brand new install, so there's no project. I'll go ahead and click one, make the project here, ICC 2020. Now, I'm not going to put anything else in there. I'm not going to worry about databases. I'm just going to show you how quickly we can get I/O in there. And well, we're going to go ahead and launch that. And here we go. Let's drop this guy down. There you can see up at the top, I am on Demo Studio Max W10, Windows 10. I can just go right into it. Look at this. Right into my Edge nodes. There's my group ID. There is my Edge node ID. And there's my device ID. How cool is this? I didn't have to enter any tags. I'm not dragging anything over from an OPC browser. Immediately, with just a few clicks, I'm pulling in all the data and tags I just configured after I wired up these sensors. So there's my red stack light, there's my tank level, door sensor, it's all there. So that's pretty slick. Let's go back to, well, let's first look at this level sensor. Make sure it's changing. It was at 188. There it goes. Changing. It's only publishing on change, which is cool, and within the deadband. I'll try my door sensor. Yep, starting to count up. I can see it's going on. Terrific. And even my studio temperature sitting right there. We'll go ahead and warm that up. But let's do something really fun. Let's actually publish a message from my gateway to the broker and let the RIO subscribe to that change. And we're going to do that first by enabling read-write access. And then I'm going to come down here to state, and I'm going to click it. Watch how fast this is. 3, 2, 1. Now that's me publishing a message from this gateway to a broker on Amazon Web Services, and this guy here subscribing to that change. No firewall ports, all secure connections. It is wicked fast. So that's great news. Okay, so we showed you how quickly we can get that data into an Ignition gateway. What I want to do now is just show you another gateway that we have set up, and I'll create a new tab. This is the publicly accessible gateway. Now I'm going to come here to demo.groove.com, open up the gateway, and just really quickly, this is a licensed version of Ignition. I'm just going to go down here to config. I'm going to log in, and I'm going to scroll down to engine, because these engine settings are the same as what I did on my local, but there's one thing that's different, and that is the username. On this particular engine, I'm on a different ACL, so I'm going to see a lot more data coming in from the broker than I did on my local gateway. So let's take a look. Okay, so now I'm on the demo.groove designer. As you can see right up there at the top, I've got that perspective screen I told you I was going to be able to add some stuff to, but let's take a look here. MQTT engine. Again, all my tags, there's a lot more tags in this with this username and password. There's my IC 2020 right there. Pretty cool. Oh, what's this one? Ignition CIC. Oh, that's my good friend Alan, who leads up the the cross-industry collective, the Ignition user group. And it so happens that Alan's also got a RIO set up in his home. Let's just see how hot it is where he's at. Whoa, 100 degrees. That's pretty hot in Bakersfield, I'm not going to lie. Thanks, Alan, for sharing your data with us. So that was kind of fun. Looks like I got my home in here. I've also got the Opto turbine, the Epic that's behind me. And as I said before, I've got my Allen Bradley PLC data in there as well. We'll see that over in perspective in just a moment. But let's get back to the task at hand, and that is, let's pull up this IC 2020. Let's go to my devices, modules, channels. Now here's my red stack light. I'm going to drag that tag right over there and just make it a toggle switch. And I'm going to grab my level rat tank sensor. Let's grab that value, drag that onto my screen, and choose cylindrical tank. Now this tank, as I told you, was a, or I should say is, let's go there. This tank is a 5-foot sensor, but it's only a 2-foot tank. So I'm going to come over here in my property editor, and I'm going to select the capacity to be 2. And that way we can get a little better read on this thing. Okay, that's pretty much it. Let's go ahead and save this thing. All right, now I'm going to go back to my browser. And I'm going to click up here to a new tab, and I'm going to select Perspective. And guess what's going to happen? Yeah, you guessed it. It's just going to load up the Perspective screen with new tags from the Rio on this public accessible gateway. Oh, and if you want to hit that gateway, there's a QR code for you. And let's go ahead and check this out. I'm going to click this button. This is on a different gateway, publish to the broker, writing to the tag. There's my level transmitter. And we're going to go ahead and pull that out and put it back in. It's always so much more fun when you're working with like real I/O instead of simulated values. Well, it is for me anyway. And one other thing I'm going to show you is I'm going to put up my demo cam, because my demo back here, I told you I've got my PLCs. I'm actually got a couple of buttons here I can press. There's the Allen Bradley stack light, and there's the green Siemens light. Same idea, differences here. I'm actually talking to PLCs using the Ignition Edge software, where in this case we're talking to just the Rio directly. So there you go. That was a lot of fun and a lot of information packed into a very short period of time. So in review, we commissioned a new Groove Rio, we wired it up with the sensors, we configured the I/O, we appointed to an MQTT broker, I created a new gateway with MQTT engine, ingested all those tags, and even built up an Ignition perspective screen with all that data. Pretty easy, right? So, and thanks to my my friends Jason and Alan for helping me out with this demo. That was really cool, being able to pull in their data as well. So I hope this this session demonstrated just how quickly you can get your I/O data directly into the Ignition platform. Now, I suspect you will have a lot of questions, and I certainly hope you do. So please feel free to contact me directly, or simply visit opto22.com, where you're going to find a live chat in the lower right-hand corner that's monitored by well-qualified engineers who can help you build the application of your dreams with Ignition, Groove Rio, or even the Groove Epic. So thank you so much. I really appreciate you attending my session, and the best to you in your digital transformation endeavors. Cheers.